Hello, hello. Here we are again, coming to you from Broadcast Team Alpha on 44 different platforms around the world. And we're going to have some fun tonight. This is going to be an educational session for every one of you out there. My name is Aage, and I'll be the host tonight. My co host is not going to be able to be here yet. She is still doing her special training and I also want to make the announcement that from July on, Broadcasting Alpha will be moving to Thursday evenings. Same time, 8 o'clock East Coast time in the evening, and Pacific West Coast at 5 o'clock p.m. So put that on your smartphone, put an alarm on it so you don't miss it because these are good. And now we are also transmitting on the platform of Cosmic Awakening Network. And they're good people. You got to go visit there. They have 50 some shows on that platform on all of the subjects that we need to know about and we want to know about. So go and visit. That is at the Conscious Awakening Network.org, and you'll find it there. And before I introduce my guest, I also want to tell you how you can get in touch with me and also my co host Nori. You go to broadcastteamalpha.com and send us a message. We'll get the message and we'll get back to you. And if you got questions or good ideas for hosts and I mean guests, then that would be great. We will get in touch with them and have a talk, and then maybe we can get them on the air for you. So also, if you are watching on YouTube right now, that's the place to be because that's the only place we can watch and we can monitor the chat room. So and Mac is gonna watch that for us today. So we will be able to answer maybe or also bring questions to it. So if you have that. And one more thing I want to tell you is that Nori and I created a spiritual think tank, and we do incredible things. It seems like we are creating out of seemingly nothing sometimes. We reach into the quantum existence, the universal mind, and we find what we need and want, and we bring it into the physical. And it shows up. That could be a lot of healings have happened almost instantly, and also windfalls with the economics. And Monday night we created rain again out in the West Coast where they cut off the government cut off the water to the potato farmers in Idaho. But it was raining right afterwards. So I don't know if we were the cause for that, but we could be. So anyway, I will introduce the guest for you. And we have Vincent, or I should probably call him Winnie. That's probably what he is mostly called, I suppose. And that's Vincent Vinney Tolman. He is a spiritual teacher, and he is an author of the book The Light After Death, and you will find it on Amazon. And after this show, go to Amazon and look up the book and read about what's in it. You are going to love it because that will supplement what we're going to hear tonight. And Vinny is also a sought after speaker on podcasts and radio and everywhere else. He had an incredible experience when he was 25 years old. He was found dead on the floor in the restroom of a restaurant. He had been dead for 45 minutes. Now, his body was later revived when he came out of the body bag. And he awoke from coma 3 days later, and he would share that story with us and what he saw on the other side of the curtain after he died. Now, the thing about this is that medical science tell us that we cannot survive deprivation of oxygen for more than 3 to 5 to 6 minutes at the most without brain damage. He was dead for 45 minutes. That tells me that there was a divine intervention. Something happened there that should not have happened in the physical existence entirely. So this is going to be good, folks. Stay with us here because we're going to hear what happened to Vinney Tolman. Welcome to the show.
It's great to be here, Aage. It's really great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. We're so glad that when I saw you first on YouTube, and I thought myself, we gotta talk more with that guy. So that experience that you had when you were 25 years old, I believe that changed you, and you're not the same man anymore, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I was going in a very different route with my life when that happened. And after it happened, I completely changed the way I was living. It wasn't perfect, but I sure did change things in a much different way.
Would you maybe explain to us what happened when you died? How did that happen anyway? Maybe you even know the cause for it, but what happened when you died? You went to the other side. That's a good term for it, the other side. You saw things, you experienced things, and you came back and you changed. Explain this journey to us.
Sure, it would be my pleasure. My experience starts back in 2003. I was 25 years old, and I was using a new supplement. Me and one of my best friends, we took this new supplement, but what we didn't know is this new supplement was 20 times stronger than the old version that we had been using before. So we took our normal dose. It come to find out it was 20 times stronger than what we should have had. And so it was toxic. We both felt upset stomach and ill, like we were going to vomit. So we decided to go down to the local restaurant about just a couple blocks from his house. We went down there, we pulled in. I stumbled in and went directly to the bathroom and locked the door. He went in and collapsed on the booth just as he entered the dining room, and he started to vomit there. They saw him right away. They called 911 and they hauled him away. So, about an hour before they found me, they hauled him away. About an hour later, they found me in the bathroom because the bathroom was locked. The manager finally had to unlock that bathroom. He found the body. They called emergency services, and the medics, they pronounced the body dead as soon as they saw it. They did try to resuscitate, not without any activity, without any response. They did pronounce death. And 47 minutes after they pronounced death, a rookie medic got a prompting, got a feeling that he needed to try to resuscitate this body, and he got the heart to start back up after 3 rounds of shocks. So that's where this all starts. Is a rookie medic. It was his first week off of orientation, and he was following these two veteran medics. They were sitting in the front of the ambulance. He felt his intuition tell him that he needed to try to revive this body, and he did. He got the heart to start back up despite being dead. So documented from the time that they found the body and pronounced death, the DOA, to the time that the heart started was 47 minutes, and plus whatever time I was dead before that. So we know for sure it was at least 47 minutes, if not more. If not, maybe closer to about an hour and a half or an hour 45. So that whole time, I had no idea that what I was watching was my own death. I was watching everything happen. Even I watched my buddy get pulled away in an ambulance, the first ambulance. I watched them bag the body in the second ambulance. I watched them put it in there, and they went around and got paperwork signed. They acted like there was no rush. And after they got all the paperwork signed, they drove away from the scene. And it was only about a block away from the scene when this rookie medic, he felt something come over him and tell him that this one wasn't all the way dead. So he opened up the body bag, he broke protocol, and he attempted resuscitation with success. After the third round of shocks, he was able to get the heart to come back. And now all of a sudden, this experience I was having, I was witnessing it secondhand. I was witnessing it all outside myself. It was starting to get real for me, but I didn't know that it was me yet. Not until they transferred the body to the hospital. When they did that transfer, they had to strap the body down because it was convulsing. And when they strapped the body down, I felt someone strapping me down where I was watching everything from above. And that's when I had this just the weirdest, surreal moment where I realized that everything that I'd just been watching was me. I actually had the thought, how could you be so stupid to watch your own death and you didn't even know? And as soon as I had that thought, I just had all sorts of darkness come into me. And I felt almost like I was too ignorant to exist. And then I started to see every bad thing that I ever did in my life. Every bad thing from even when I was a very young child, I saw every bad thing that I ever did. But I but I also saw it from the perspective of the people I did it to, including my brother, which me and my brother we were like this most of our life. And so I got to see a lot of mean things that I did to my brother, and I got to see how it affected him. And not just him, anyone I ever did anything bad to. And I got to this point where I felt, why am I existing if this is all that I am, is only these bad things? Why do I even exist? And when I had that question, this warmth, it started to overtake me from behind. It started in the middle of my back and it warmed over my back. And I started to feel love, just unconditional love. And then I started to see very quickly all the good things that I ever did. And I got to see it from the perspective of those who I helped too. And I got to see so much more good that I had done in my life than bad. I wasn't perfect by any stretch of the word, but I had done a lot of good. People were important to me. People that I cared about were important to me. I got to see how I served those around me who I cared for. And I got to see how important it was that I was there in life doing that. And as I witnessed all of this, that unconditional love just started to grow and form around me. And that's when I realized that this love was coming from behind me. So I turned around. I turned around to look where this love was coming from. And here I see this man, and he looks exactly what Hollywood would make God look like. He's this male with long white hair, a long white beard, and his eyes are just beaming love at me. His eyes just are sending so much love to me. I feel like his eyes were like hugging me. And as soon as I saw him, I had the thought, oh, this is God. And as soon as I had that thought, I heard his voice laughing in a loving way. And his voice said back to me, no, son, I'm not God. And I was confused because I thought, well, this must be what God is this being. And so my follow up thought was confusing, but my follow up thought was, well, if you're not God, then you must be Jesus. And as soon as I had that thought, he followed up with an answer, again, without using his mouth. he just directly got his voice into my head and said, "No, son, I'm not Jesus either." But he said, "I love that you think that I am those things, but I am not those things. I am your guide." And he called himself Drake. He said, "My
Yeah,
name is Drake,
Drake.
and I'm here to be your guide. I can take you wherever you want to go." And when he said that, I got really excited. I've always been a huge fan of the cosmos and outer space. I've just, being a sci-fi kid, growing up with Star Wars and a lot of the other shows,
Yeah.
I really was excited when he said, "I can take you anywhere in the universe." I sat there and thought for a moment, wow, anywhere in the universe. And as I was thinking about all these places, I could again feel this love, this tremendous love pouring off of him onto me. And I asked him, I said, "Well, I want to go wherever this love is coming from. I can tell it's coming through you, but it's not necessarily coming from you, it's coming through you. I want to go wherever that love is coming from." And he got very excited and said, "Well, that's coming from our home. That's coming from my home and your home. And we can go to your home, to our home." And I said, "Let's do it. Let's go." And so we began this journey. We began this existential journey from earth to what I would call heaven. And heaven is a very real place, very real. It does not exist in our dimension, though. It exists at a very high dimension compared to where we exist. So I had to travel. I had to travel from this dimension that we're existing in here on Earth to a much higher dimension. And how I had to do that was I had to go along for the ride and I had to learn. I had to do a lot of learning. I was raised strong Christian. So I thought I could pull out my Christian card and say, "Don't worry, just let me into heaven. I know all the rules." And Drake lovingly put his arm around me with his energy, and he said, "I love that you think that you know, but it's not exactly how you perceive it. It's a little different than that, and I'm going to help you along the way." And that's when I followed up with, "Oh, okay, I know it's all about love. I just love gets us all around the universe. It's the most powerful thing, right?" And he said, "Yes, but love is not the first principle that I have to understand. I had to understand authenticity." And he explained to me that until I could be authentically myself, I actually couldn't feel real love. I couldn't even share or give real love until I knew who I really was. So he taught me that authenticity was the number one thing I needed to learn about. And I didn't need to be an embodiment of that authenticity. I just need to realize it was important. And so that's where our journey began. I call it my authentic journey because that's where it started, is in authenticity. I had to learn what authenticity was. I had to learn that in my life, I had a different version of myself that I would allow to be with all my different friends and family and coworkers. And I needed to bring all those selves together to be one. And I had to learn how to make that being just one being. And as I could do that, I could figure out who I authentically was. And we don't
So,
realize it. But yeah, go ahead.
yeah. So you were, when you found out who you found yourself to be a compilation of many others as one with many.
Yes, many selves. Like I had many different aspects of myself. I did. I had worked in construction, so I had my construction persona. I had worked in TV and film, so I had my TV and film persona. I had worked in computers and tech support, and so I had that aspect of myself. But I also had a side of myself that I was different with my friends, and then I was different with my sisters, and then I was different with my parents. I had all these different faces. It felt like different masks that I would put on depending on who I was with. And I was
Okay.
raised in kind of a pretty rough upbringing. And part of that raising up with abuse was to put a survivor mask on and to become whoever I needed to become so that I could survive. And, and being raised around that, I had a lot of masks. And
Yeah.
what Drake did is he helped me open up my bag of masks and throw them all away and realize that underneath all those masks was the same guy. And I needed to be that same real guy no matter where I went. And so I still strive for that. I'm not perfect at it, but I strive to be authentically myself wherever I go.
Yeah.
Then I never have to worry about packing my mask. That no matter who I'm with, I can just be myself. And that's a great place to be for us in this life. You look at the average person in life and they are extremely authentic before they're 5 years old, and they're extremely authentic after they're 85 years old. So for some reason, we've got it all figured out until we're 5, and then it takes us all the way into 80 years later when we're 85. Now we've got it figured out again. Now we are authentic as can be, right?
Mm.
And so that was the biggest step for me, was learning authenticity. And then the second step I had to learn is to know why I was on Earth. And so Drake showed me that Earth is a school, and it's one of many schools. There are many, many schools out in the cosmos, and Earth School is one of the hardest schools there is. And not just anybody can get in here. You actually have to be one of the best souls to be able to even get in here, one of the royalty or one of the cream of the crop, just to be able to get in here. And even as a failure, your soul is still prized and celebrated in the universe because you made it here. But Earth is just a school. It's always been a classroom, it's never been a courtroom. No matter what religions teach us, it's always been a classroom, never a courtroom. And we're here to learn how to make decisions. We're here to learn how to build relationships, because those relationships we get to take with us. We don't get
Yeah.
to take anything that we earn or gain or get possession of, but we get to take our relationships that we create. Those we get to take with us. So those need to be the most important thing to us. And that's
I
when
can
Drake
under,
got, yeah,
yeah, I can understand that because there is no drawers in the bottom of the coffin. You
there's
can't
no
take
drawers. You're right. Yep. Yep. And those keys are not going to open up anything once you die. Yep. So that,
Yeah.
after I learned the whole reason why we were here, then Drake helped me understand that I needed to learn to love everyone. And he said, everyone, no matter who they are, no matter how they live or where they come from. I need to learn to love them. And here's how he showed me to do it. Within all living beings, and I mean all living beings, there is a sliver of our creator there. There's a piece of our creator in all of life. And I
Yeah.
include plant life, animal life, um, all life, all existent life. There's a piece of the creator there. And then I need to learn how to love them, knowing that there's a piece of my creator in there, no matter who it is, what it is, or where it is. I need to learn to love them. And that brought me to the fourth principle that he taught me, and that was to recognize that all of us have an inner voice. And that piece of our creator that exists within everything, that piece has a voice. And we can learn to listen to that inner voice. And that inner voice can guide us through the hardest things in this life. But we're never alone, not for a second. The only time we think we're alone is when we're trying to block that inner voice, when we're trying to cut ourselves off from humanity or from our creator. But that helped me understand so much about my life. I didn't realize that I
Yeah.
had actually used my inner voice quite a bit, and I
Yeah.
didn't give it full credit necessarily either.
Yeah, that's that little voice in the back of your head when you're doing something and it tells you that, is this a good idea? Maybe you shouldn't. We
Well,
have to, we don't listen always. When in my past, when I didn't listen to that voice, it usually was the wrong thing to do.
well, it's funny. We have two voices inside all of us. We
Yeah,
have a voice of love and inspiration, and we have a voice of fear.
yeah,
And the fear voice, I learned, later I learned, is the voice of ego or the voice of edging God over. And that's the acronym of ego, is to edge God out or edge God over.
yeah,
And fear, when they talk in ancient scripture about not serving two masters, we can't serve love and fear at the same time.
yeah,
We can only serve one or the other. And so love is the voice that leads us to reason. It leads us to guide us to our good actions, and that fear does not. And that brought me to the next thing that Drake taught me, is he taught me how to understand that technology in the future would try to replace the love influence over us. So technology would try to replace our conscience or try to replace our connection with the creator, and that I needed to start building a healthy relationship with technology. And I still work daily on that. I'm a firm believer in honoring your hour of power. That's your first 30 minutes when you wake up, and that's the last 30 minutes before you go to bed. What you put in that time period, it becomes what you worship.
mhm,
And if you put God there in whatever form, you put God, you put inspiration, you put your creator inside your hour of power, you align yourself to a higher path. You align yourself to your intuition. But if you put entertainment, you put news, you put stocks, you put sports in your hour of power, that becomes your God, that becomes your religion. So it's important for us to use technology responsibly. And that brought me to the next step of understanding, and that is to release all prejudice. And I told Drake, I said, Drake, I've got two Korean sisters, and I feel so close to them as my sisters that I feel that I'm blood to them. Energetically, I felt blood to my Korean sisters. I felt that because of that connection, that kinship, that I was the least prejudiced person he would probably ever meet. And he again smiled and lovingly laughed at me and said, I love that you feel that you have no prejudice, but how do you feel about prejudiced people? And that's when I went off. I said, oh, I'll tell you about prejudiced people. I went off on the prejudiced people. And he showed me almost as if there was two camps in life. There was loving and without prejudice, and there was ignorant with prejudice. And he took me from the loving team. He lifted me off and he put me on the prejudice team. And when he did that to me, I felt hurt. I'm like, Drake, why did you move me from the love team to the prejudice team? And he said, well, because you hate prejudiced people. And I just had this huge expansion in my mind that yes, was being prejudiced towards prejudiced people. And that for me to truly embody the love of the creator, I can't hate or have prejudice, even against prejudiced people. It was a big one for me. I felt
yeah.
a big expansion to myself, to my consciousness, as he showed me that one, as he explained that one to me.
Yeah,
And
that makes
yeah,
that makes sense because there's that old saying, it takes one to know one. You had to be put inside of that concept in order to understand.
yes, yeah. And unfortunately, we don't realize we are bringing prejudice even as we are anti-prejudice, which But it makes sense when you really think about it. It makes sense, you know. But then the next thing that he taught me is that there's power in our creation, and that we were given magic wands in our life, and our magic wands are our thoughts. If we can control our thoughts, we can control our outcomes. And it's important for us to begin with the power of thought. And the power of thought is the power of creation. And that
Yes.
we can create all sorts of blessings and opportunities in our life just by controlling our thoughts first. By creating positive thoughts, we create positive outcomes, if that makes sense.
Yes, that makes sense. Where
And
did you go
then
from? Where did you go from there with him?
so from there he helped me understand that we were almost there. We were almost to this heavenly space. He helped me understand that we were like right on the precipice of this heavenly realm, this place that I call heaven. And he helped me understand that I needed to learn to avoid all negative thoughts and negative energy. And not that negative is bad or good, it just serves to pull me away from my creator. So all negative energy pulls me away from my creator, and all love energy pulls me towards my creator. And I needed to avoid negative thoughts, negative behaviors, negative um entertainment, even. And that's when he showed me that there's divine purpose even in evil. That long ago, you know, long before we can ever remember, we were already existing in the heavenly space. And we were so connected to our creator that we couldn't make our own decisions. We wanted to synchronize with whatever the creator wanted. That's what we wanted. And it was our love for the creator that made us that way. And we realized for us to grow, we had to leave our home. We had to leave our heaven, and we had to go away for a while, and we had to forget who we really are. And in doing so, that's the purpose of evil. Evil is the energy that draws us away from our creator and keeps us there. But it does serve a purpose. It is the alternate choice. So we can choose that fear, we can choose that negative energy to fuel us, and in doing so, it only takes us away from the creator. So that one was a big one for me. The last thing that he taught me, though, is that in the universe, we are all one. We are all one.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean that we're all one soul. It means that together we are the body of our creator. So if you add together all the different parts and pieces of creation and all the cosmos, if you bring it all together, you have the force of the creator. And that for me to go out and live my life thinking that I am anti anyone, I am only being anti myself.
Yeah.
And that as I live my life pointing my finger saying, hey, that person's so bad, I'm pointing one amount of energy at them, pointing one amount of energy towards my creator or the etherical nature. And then I'm pointing three times that energy back to myself. So
Yeah.
there's no way to say negative things or think negative things and not have them come back on you. There's no way to do that. But I can say positive things and I can think positive things. And that way, I'm sending positive out in the universe and I'm receiving positive from that. I might not see it right away, but I will always see a positive dividend from every positive statement that I can make.
Yeah.
But that's where I started to see this place that looked like a huge, huge sacred space.
Yeah.
It did look like a planet to me, though.
Yeah, let's. I see that we are past the bottom of the hour here, and for those of you that joined us late, we are talking with Vinney Tolman. He is explaining his journey through his near-death experience from the beginning all the way to the other side and back again. So now we're getting to the good part, which we're going to find out what it looks like on the other side. You know, there is this rumor on the street that all of us is going to get to see that place one day.
Oh, we
Uh, it's
will.
a
We're
it's a
going to get to
very
see it.
yeah, it's a very persistent rumor. So just listen really close here. And I want to make the announcement again that from July on, you will find broadcast Team Alpha on Thursday evenings, same time, 8 o'clock in the evening, East Coast, 5 o'clock in the evening, West Coast. And here we are back with Vinney Tolman again. You found the other side. Tell us about it.
So Drake, who was my guide, he was taking me on this journey through some big steps I had to take. I had to take some big principles and take them in. And as I did, I got to this place where I could actually see this heavenly realm, and it is very, very real. Um, it's not this hypothetical, it's not this virtual. It is a very real space in time and space. It is a very real space. And it's much larger than what we could comprehend. I feel as if you took a million of our suns, our star in our solar system, our sun, you take a million of those and bring them together. That's what it feels like the size of heaven is. It's just huge, vastly larger than we can comprehend. And as I was getting closer to this space, I was working through certain principles that allowed me to get closer and closer and closer. And as I got really close, I got to see kind of this cloud. It looked somewhat like the rings of Saturn, right, around the outside, but it wasn't clean. You look at the rings of Saturn; they're clean, they're thin, and they go very cleanly all the way around. Well, these rings were kind of like a wide belt of mist, almost like a cloud system on the far outside of this heavenly area, this heavenly space. As we were getting closer and closer, I could see that this mist, it was made of these special orbs, these special spheres. And these spheres, they serve as a precious zone to decontaminate our souls, to release all the drama and the trauma that our soul takes on. We release it when we go in through these clouds, through these spheres. And I made it all the way into heaven, the actual place. We touched down um, just next to this little lake, and at the base of some mountains, there was this pristine field of grass with some flowers. And as I touched down, I actually felt my feet. I did have feet there. Now my body was energetic there. So I still had feet and legs and arms and hands. My feet touched down, and it felt like the grass reached up to meet my feet as we touched down. And when we made that full connection, I instantly started to hear music. I started to hear a chorus of music coming into me. And that's when I recognized that it was coming from the grass, that the grass itself was sending me this loving music, and that the grass itself, it had millions of colors of green, just millions of different shades. And the grass itself had light coming from it. There was light emitting from the grass. So the grass itself was source. It was source light. And as I plugged into this grass, I could feel and I could distinguish individual consciousness in every single blade of grass. But I also
Mm.
could feel this like blanket consciousness, this hive consciousness of all the grass together, sending me tremendous amounts of love, tremendous amounts of love, and more love than I thought was possible from anything. And this is just simply the grass. And I'm kind of having this freak out moment about the grass as I'm plugging in and feeling all this love. And Drake is laughing. He's loving my reaction to the grass, and he goes, if you think the grass is neat, you should see the flowers. And I about lost it. I was like, there's flowers? No way there's flowers. And Drake took my consciousness where I was, and it's almost as if he shrunk me down and put me on a flower. And all of a sudden I was experiencing full bore a flower up close and personal. And I was experiencing actual waves of aroma and peace and love coming off of this flower. And it was just washing over me. And it felt like a gentle fan of love. And as it just blew back and forth over me, I could feel all this healing happening inside me. I could feel every step of the way there was healing going on. And that's when Drake piped up and said, well, you should also check out the trees. And I again freaked out. There's trees. Oh my God. Oh my goodness, there's trees. And now all of a sudden my consciousness was plugging into the trees. And I could feel again, just like the grass, each tree had its own consciousness, but yet it was together like a hive, like a fabric of life. And that together it was forming a certain vibration, a certain love energy. And then I felt my consciousness come back to my energetic body where I was standing in the grass. And I noticed this little stream of water, and it was approaching me. The stream was this stream came up out of its little stream bed, and it approached me and it touched my toe and it asked me, would you like us on you? And I was just so excited about everything. I said, yes, I'd love you on. And so this little stream started creeping up over my feet and then up over my legs and my knees. But what was the most interesting thing to me is it felt very cool, but also very warm. It felt like it was electrifying me as it came up over my energetic body. And it slowly went up over my whole body, including my face, including my head, and it completely covered me. It covered both my arms, both my legs, my hands, my feet, my eyes, my head, everything. And as it completed and connected on top of my head, I could feel the most tremendous sense of unconditional love coming from this water. And I could feel that this water was made to heal me. It was made to take away all the damage that was beat into me and abused into me as a kid. And even as an adult, the abuse I took on myself, the self abuse, it healed all of that. And I felt like I didn't deserve this kind of love. No one can deserve this kind of love. You could be the greatest, most selfless person in the world ever, and you still don't deserve just the love of one blade of grass. But yet, here I was, and it was freely being given to me for no reason whatsoever, just because I was existing. This tremendous love and healing, it changed me. It took away all these cracks and these breaks that were in my soul from my life. And as it did, it then came down off of me and went back into the grass and went back into the stream. And that's when I essentially came out of that water a completely different person. And I feel that's what we're mimicking when we baptize people on this earth or when we bathe people. We are trying to mimic that healing washing, that healing
Okay.
power of those healing waters.
Yeah.
And the next thing I know, I'm looking at a building. And this building, it's about 4 stories tall, but it was huge, very, very wide. But I could tell that the building was made out of one piece of marble, and that the entire building was alive. It actually had its own consciousness, it had its own life force energy in the building. And then I noticed all these people going in and out of rooms in the building, but it didn't have normal doors. It had openings that would show up when someone matched the exact energy of what was going on in the rooms. These doorways would form and someone would go in. And then the doorway would seal, and then it was a solid building again. But I could feel just a tremendous excitement in this building. And I was getting very excited. I wanted to go to the building next. That's what my intention was. And that's when Drake put his arm out to me. He put his arm around my shoulder and he said, Vinney, this is going to be really hard, but it's going to be worth it. And he brought me in and gave me a hug. When he hugged me, it felt like a star exploded inside of me. It felt like this huge pulse of energy came out of the two of us as we hugged. And I felt the amazing power of two souls coming together in love of God, in celebration of the Creator. And in doing that, I just felt whole worlds of energy just pulsating off of us. And I was starting to feel like I was melting into this out of this world love. I again felt I was just not worthy of all of this. And that's when I heard my brother on earth, he was saying a special prayer over my body. And I could hear directly in my ear his words as if he was saying it right in my ear in heaven. And I heard him bless my body to be made whole. I heard him bless my body to come back alive and for my soul to come back to my body. And when he completed that prayer, I felt that I was pulled out of heaven and I was pulled back into my body. Now, what had happened is I had died, they had revived my body, but I was brain dead for 3 days. And my experience in heaven was happening while I was brain dead for those 3 days. The weirdest way, I was conscious of things going on around my body, but I didn't care. I wanted to be in heaven. So I was
Yeah.
allowing my consciousness to be in the heaven space for those 3 days. But I woke up at 1:11 in the morning. I pulled everything off of me. I had catheters on me. I had all sorts of equipment. I had breathing tubes in. I pulled everything off. And I just stood there. And as I was standing there, I was hearing these alarms go off of some of the equipment that I had just pulled off. And so I went and pulled all those equipment out of the wall. I actually broke some of the cables because they were like screwed into the wall. I didn't care. I pulled them out. And then I was just sitting there and I was just breathing. I was just taking in like these huge breaths and I couldn't understand what had just happened to me. As soon as I woke up, I had forgotten the whole heaven experience. And I feel like that happened by design. I probably would have grabbed the sharpest object I could and just ended it right there if I had remembered. I wanted to go, I know that I wanted to go back because as soon as I could remember it, I wanted to go back. But I just stood there taking these deep breaths. I felt it so claustrophobic. I had no understanding why. And then I looked down and realized I was naked. So I went, rifling through the cupboards in my hospital room, and I found some gowns. I wrapped them around my midsection, and then I just took off. I left. I wanted to go home. I wanted to go home. I didn't know which home I was trying to go for, but I knew I wanted to go home. And I went to the elevator. I was hitting the down button when I heard some screams. And I knew that the nurses would be in trouble if I left. So I did turn around. I went back to my room. I made sure that they wouldn't get in any trouble. But I worked with the nurses, I worked with the doctors, I worked with all the specialists, and they made me sign a big stack of paperwork, but I checked myself out of the hospital that morning. So I checked out at 7:30 in the morning and I went home. And for a whole day, I thought that something was different about me now. I didn't know what it was. But that night, my sister, she took me to dinner with her family and my other sister's family. And she kind of took me in the corner and she said, Vinny, she said, you were dead. You know, everybody said you were dead. And I said, I know. At the hospital, everybody was calling me the miracle boy, and I'm sick of that name. I'm not a miracle. I feel depressed. I don't know what's going on. Stop saying it's a miracle. And she goes, no, you were dead. Did you experience something? And my brain tried to form the words no, but instead of no, what came out of my mouth was yes, I saw everything. I saw heaven, I saw my guide, I saw angels, I saw what heaven is for and why we're here on earth. And I just started to weep as I tried to tell her what my experience was. And it was so weird to me. It was surreal because I felt like that was coming from something else, not from me. But as it was coming out of me, I was realizing that that was what happened to me.
No, it suddenly came back then.
It did. It all just came, and as soon as she asked, it's almost as if she was prompted to ask that herself. And as soon as she did, it all came back to me. But I still had the voice of my neurologist and also one psychotherapist. They both had said the same thing, that my brain was going to make up stuff. And then I needed to be careful not to believe what my brain makes up, because I was brain dead. And when your brain is dead that long and you come back, sometimes it makes up some imaginary things. So I thought for a while that maybe that's what happened to me, that this was just imagination. But 7 months later, after I met the love of my life, she was my anchor to keep me here on earth. Her name's Andrea. She's my wife. We've been married 21, almost 22 years. And she encouraged me to go to this little family reunion in Wyoming. We go to this little reunion, and they're showing the history of the town at the local high school. And up comes this picture of Drake. On the big screen, it's a picture of Drake. I had been describing him so much that Andrea felt like she could recognize him the way I had been describing him. And she said, that's your guide. That's Drake, isn't it? And I turned, I was trying to say, no, that's not my guide. So I was saying that as I turned, and as I turned and saw, I froze. And then I started to cry. I started to weep like a baby that lost its mom. I felt so distraught because I was starting to believe that maybe what had happened to me was just some illusion, some delusion. But now sitting right in front of me was the picture of Drake. But here was the enigma. It said his name was Charles. It didn't say his name was Drake. So I recognized the last name. I went to my grandmother that night and I said, Grandma, tell me about Charles Kazare. Tell me who that is. And her response was, oh, you mean great grandpa Drake? He's kind of famous in our family. So come to find out, his middle name was Drake, and all of his family knew him as Drake or Grandpa Drake. But all of his coworkers and all of his church people, they all called him Charles. So it was a way to know if someone was family or if they were business.
Yep.
But with that, I had enough of a seed that I could go with faith, knowing that what had happened, there was some aspect of it that
Yeah.
it was all real. It was all real, and that I had to learn how to live with it from there. And that's what I've
Yeah,
been doing for 21 years, almost 22 years. And I'll tell you, it hasn't been easy at all, but I'll tell you, it's been worth it, just like Drake said. And there's been many, many times where spirit is telling me to do something that makes no sense. And then I do it only to see my life blessed and the life of others blessed
yeah,
because I follow that intuition. And I've lived
yeah,
that way now. And that's how I live every day.
yeah.
But
That's amazing.
that's my experience.
That's amazing. You didn't know about Drake, but there he was. So
There he
that's
was.
wonderful.
And
Yeah,
undeniable too. I mean,
yeah,
I described him so well that even Andrea recognized him.
yeah. Now I see now that we are about 3 minutes from the end of the show, and this has been a phenomenal journey that you took us on. Can I ask you to come back and
Absolutely. I would love it.
another?
I would love to come back.
That would be good because I I left this show alone because your story was so important for people to understand and listen to. My questions would be irrelevant compared to that. But I did have a bunch of questions written down that maybe we could talk about next time. You know, like what is God? I got questions about angels and karma. I would like to talk about karma, maybe how we can get around some of it. And also that very small percentage of near death experiences where there is a negative experience that
Mhm.
comes to mind. And maybe the reason why it's so in the future, if people know they can avoid that, that is something that we want to talk about. Whatever you did in the past that was really bad, does not necessarily put you downstairs next to the furnace.
Exactly. If we go downstairs because we put ourselves there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. And I also wanted to talk about the life contract and several things. And gosh, let's do
I
that
would love
next
to.
time.
Let's do it. Let's schedule it. That would be a lot of fun. Plus,
Yeah, that'll,
yeah, some of your viewers, maybe they can pipe in some questions on this and we can
yeah.
cover those questions there. That would be
Also,
really fun.
yeah, also, you have a very interesting looking book. Talk about that. Where can people get a hold of you and also get a hold of the book that you have expanded way beyond what you told us in this hour?
Yes. So they can just go to my nonprofit, which is livinggodslight.com. Everything is there. They can find the Amazon links, everything there at livinggodslight.com. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds wonderful. Oh, wow, this was quite a journey. And again, I will also I would like to ask you a question. It's my favorite question. I just can't help it. And that is, if you could talk to the whole world and the world is listening, what would you tell them?
Don't forget that you're a divine masterwork that God cares about. So start caring about that divine masterwork.
Yeah, that we are,
Yeah. Every single one of us. With
everyone.
our imperfections, with our perfections, with our weaknesses, with our strengths. God, our creator, loves us so much. We have no idea what had to be done behind the scenes just to get us to here.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of logistics on the other side to make this
Oh
all
yeah.
work.
So much. And all of it is done through love. All of it, not through ego, not through judgment. It's all done through love. All of it.
Yeah. Man, oh man. Are you still in contact with that rookie that actually saved your life?
I did. I stayed in contact for about a year, almost a year and a half. But then he did get transferred to a different department. I lost track of him. One
Oh,
day
right.
though, I'm really planning on seeing him show up somewhere,
Yeah.
whether it's an email or somewhere. Yeah,
Mm,
he listened to the right energy, and he was able
yeah.
to save my life.
That's wonderful. That is wonderful. Well, I'm looking forward to having you back. And then again, for those of you that are still with us, we are moving broadcast team Alpha now to Thursday night, same time, 8 o'clock East Coast time, and 5 o'clock in the afternoon, West Coast Pacific time. So you can see us there. Come in July on. So next week and this month, we're still here, same time, but from July on, we are moving. So just keep that in mind. And I want to thank you so much for being with us. This has been wonderful. It's been
Thank you,
wonderful.
Aggie. Thank you for all that you do too. I mean, there's a lot of work in what you're doing, and I really appreciate that. Thank you, and sincerely, I appreciate you being this
I,
show that this is.
yeah, this is the kind of show that makes what we do, what Nori and I done for 6 years. Shows like this makes it worth it.
Yeah. And tell
That's great.
Nori thank you for all that she does too. I know
Uh,
she's not
I
here, but I appreciate her.
Yeah, I'll tell her. And then until next time, be good to each other.